Welcome back, Focus Learners. Today's explainer dives into the fascinating and honestly slightly hidden evolutionary reasons behind why humans actually help strangers. We love to think of generosity as this purely selfless act, right? But the science tells a much deeper, way more complex story about how our brains are actually wired. So buckle up because we're going to challenge some of your fundamental assumptions about human nature today.
Okay, let's just be real for a second and look in the mirror. Have you ever donated to a charity but kind of made sure someone else saw you do it? Or maybe you dropped a tip in the jar right exactly as the barista looked up, or posted about your weekend volunteer work on social media. It begs the question, why do we really help strangers when there's absolutely no direct immediate benefit to ourselves?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look at how our own minds deceive us. There's this brilliant quote from a review of the book, The Elephant in the Brain, and it totally hits the nail on the head. It highlights our natural human tendency to basically mask our true motives behind a comforting lie. We are absolute masters of self-deception. We do things every day, and we love to assign these highly noble, conscious motives to our actions while completely ignoring what might actually be bubbling beneath the surface. So the crucial point here is that we all have an elephant in the brain. It's just like the phrase, the elephant in the room, where there's an obvious problem everyone deliberately ignores. The elephant in the brain, it represents the hidden, largely self-serving motives driving our everyday actions that we just pretend aren't there. We don't want to admit we have them, but they are constantly running in the background, shaping our social behaviors. So, where does this mental elephant even come from? Well, you have to trace it all the way back to our ancestors, who were locked in fierce evolutionary competition. Back then, survival wasn't just about foraging for food. It was about securing sex, building social status, and forming political alliances. Those were literally the evolutionary currencies of competition. Our brains evolved to play this incredibly complex social game, developing behaviors that let us signal our value to the rest of the group without wasting too many resources. And honestly, this is a perfect illustration of what evolutionary biologists call costly signaling theory. It sounds academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It suggests that doing something good but difficult, like providing a collective good or donating to charity, is actually a highly strategic way to build your reputation. Think about it. If a signal is cheap, anyone can fake it. But if it costs you significant energy, time, or risk, it reliably proves to everyone watching that you've got desirable qualities. It shows you're resourceful, trustworthy, and a valuable team player. Now, sure, we know this kind of signaling happens in small hunter-gatherer societies. But to see if this evolutionary quirk still exists today in our complex modern world, researchers at the University of Pécs set up a really captivating real-world charity experiment. They brought in 186 university students across 16 different classes just to see exactly how, and more importantly, why, they would offer support to unfamiliar people in need. The setup for this was super clever. A representative from a real charity organization actually visited the classes and asked for volunteers. But here's the catch. The researchers split the students into two distinct conditions. In the public offer groups, students had to declare their intention to help out loud, right in front of all their classmates. But in the anonymous offer groups, the students just wrote down their offers in secret. Nobody else in the room had any idea if they volunteered or not. First off, just looking at the baseline data, it's pretty heartwarming. Overall, across all the groups, an impressive 44.3% of the subjects were willing to give assistance to people in need. We're talking the elderly, the homeless, or the disabled. So this definitely tells us that humans are highly pro-social. We really do want to help. But the true revelation comes when we compare those two groups. Just wait until you see what happens when the lights are on versus off. The difference is staggering. More than half of the students volunteered when they were in the public group, compared to less than a third when it was completely anonymous. Being observed by their peers practically doubled the likelihood of generosity. Having an audience didn't just gently nudge them, it fundamentally rewired their decision-making process on the spot. And the dynamic shifts even more when we rank the actual charity tasks they were offered. The students were given a choice of 7 specific jobs. Later on, researchers had independent raters rank these tasks based on cost, meaning time, physical effort, and emotional strain. It ranged from the easiest, like simply taking blood pressure, all the way up to the absolute most demanding task of all, which was providing assistance for mentally handicapped children. So, what did the researchers find? A wildly fascinating pattern. When people knew they were being watched in the public groups, they didn't just volunteer more often. They specifically chose the most difficult, costly activities. Meanwhile, in the anonymous groups, people were totally fine just choosing the easy tasks. This perfectly, and I mean perfectly, aligns with costly signaling theory. If you're going to show off how reliable and generous you are to your peers, you have to pick a task that proves you can bear a really heavy cost. And the payoff for taking on that burden, it is very, very real. The data elegantly proves this costly signal payoff. Before and after the charity offer, researchers measured the students' social recognition. They basically asked the group, who do you trust? Who would you want as a friend? Those who publicly offered to help saw a massive, undeniable spike in their social recognition and popularity. But the anonymous volunteers? They gained virtually zero reputation boost. It literally only pays off socially if the group actually sees you do it. Oh, and the data twists even further here. The absolute highest social reward, the jackpot of popularity and trust, went directly to the individuals who volunteered for the most expensive, difficult task, assisting mentally disabled children. Making a minor low-cost offer, that barely moved the needle on their reputation. To gain the highest level of trust from your peers, you've got to signal the absolute highest level of costly commitment.
Now, I love this part because it's a huge plot twist. Older evolutionary theories basically assumed that men used public generosity mostly just to attract mates, showing off their ability to gather resources and take risks. But this study revealed something completely different and highly surprising. The modern reality is that women actually showed a significant tendency to be more altruistic in the public groups compared to the anonymous ones. Women in our complex modern societies are using this public showing-off strategy to signal cooperative traits, build crucial alliances, and enhance their overall prestige. It's not just about mating at all. It's about social survival and status.
So, zooming out, what does this all mean for us? Well, it means we kind of need to reframe how we view altruism entirely. Ultimately, whether we're subconsciously seeking social approval, forging new alliances, or trying to climb the status ladder, this hidden elephant in our brain is driving genuine, real-world prosocial behavior. The subconscious mechanism might be rooted in ancient evolutionary selfishness, but the actual physical result is a massive, tangible benefit to society. So, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on today. If our subconscious motives are entirely selfish, born out of a primal need for reputation and survival, but vulnerable people still get the care, the donations, and the help they so desperately need, does the hidden motive actually matter? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Focused learners, keep asking the big questions, and I'll catch you next time.